Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this corset Kumihimo bracelet, and this is what mine looks like here. So you have a Kumihimo braid, see here on the back, and then I've added this embellishment with using the beads on the side here that's in the braid, and then adding this embellishment to give this kind of corset effect, or so you could say a little excess running all the way along, and it looks like this. And then it can look a little something like this on. So you can see, you give a really nice effect there. You have a basic Kumihimo braid with the beads, and then adding that embellishment after gives a really nice different look to it as well. And then I've just used these ribbon ends here to finish off the ends nicely and attached my findings. So just a double claw clasp and extended chain. You can use whatever findings you want to. It'll work fine. It's personal preference. So this is what it looks like. So I'd really love to hear what you think. And then also if you want to learn how to make this bracelet then keep watching. These are then the materials that we're going to need. Now first of all here, to make our braid we'll need a Kumihimo disc, and I'm using the round one. Now you can actually use either the round or the square to make this braid structure, but I'm just using this one because I have that handy. But then we also need a cord, so I'm using a 1mm satin cord in this case in two different colours. You can obviously choose whatever colours you want to, and you can also use other kinds of cord. This is just what I'm working with. And then we need our beads as well. So I'm using some 4mm rounds here, and these specific ones are metal spacer beads in copper. You can use whatever you want to, but I find the metal spacer beads are really useful for when using cord like this, because the holes are quite large and you can get a lot of cord through, especially if it's thicker cord. And in this case we need to get 2 lengths through one bead, so it's quite useful for that. And then finally we have the findings as well. So I have my ribbon ends to finish off the ends of the braid, and then my findings, so extended chain, lost or claw clasp, and my jump rings to attach it all together. So you can use whatever findings and clasp that you want to, but let's get all the materials ready then, and let's get started. So I've then cut some lengths of the cord so we can get going with making the braid. And first of all we need to choose one of the colours to make the braid with. In this case I'm using the black ones, and I have 4 lengths of 1 meter each. And then I make sure to put all the ends together, so like that. Then I fold them all over in half. I put in all the ends together again to find roughly where the middle is. So I tie a knot where that is, and then I just put a piece of scrap wire around it to keep it secure and help pull this down through the disc. And now this is going to be the middle of all the cords obviously, and we're going to put this in the middle of the disc, which then means we're going to have all these cords folded over and turn into 8 working lengths ready for the braid. And I've then cut 2 lengths of the other colour that I'm going to be using of about 50 centimetres each, and these are going to be used after we made the braid to add in that decoration. So I now took the cords here that I'm going to be using for the braid and attached them onto my disc. So what I've done is took the midpoint where I have that wire and put it down through the centre of the disc, and the braid is going to come out of the back, and then distributed all the other cords here around the disc evenly. So I have 2 around the top dot, and then 2 around the bottom one, so they're opposite each other in pairs, and the same on the side, also opposite each other in pairs. So they're all evenly separated out like this on the disc. And then we need to start making the braid here, and first of all I just want to make a little section before I start adding in the beads, so we have that to finish it off with. And this is the half round Kumihimo structure braid. So what I'm going to do is take the top right cord first, release that and bring that over towards the left side, so I'm taking it from the right towards the left, and bring it below the cords on the side as well. Then we're going to take the left cord on the top, bring that over towards the right, and again below the ones on the side. And then we need to do the bottom cords in the same way. So take the right one first and bring that over to the left, but this time I go above the cords on the side there, so in the slot right above them. And then the left cord goes over towards the right, and again in the slot right above all the cords on the side. So now we have all the cords on the sides of the disc here. Now we need to bring some of them back to the top and the bottom here. So it's the cords in the middle here on the sides that we now need to move. So that means I'm going to start with one side. So I'll take the top one out of the 2 middle ones, and then that needs to come to the bottom of the disc, and I'm staying on the same side of that dot, so it's coming from the left and staying on the left down here. Place it in the slot, and then I take the bottom one out of the 2 middle ones, bring that towards the top, and again place it staying on the left side of the disc, so it's right opposite from the other cord we just placed. And then on the right side here, again I take the top one of the 2 middle ones and release that, bring it down, and now stay on the right side, so place it right next to the other one. So that now shows, obviously here, we have that bottom pair back in place. and then the bottom one of the two middle ones up to the top, and there we now have the pair back in place as well. So now you can see the only difference is the outer ones on the side, they have a gap between them, so all that means is we need to move them closer to each other. So I'm just going to bring the outer ones one slot in towards each other, so they now sit on either side of the dot again, and all the cords are now back in the original position. So that's now one full go around on the disc, and you can see all the cords in the original position. So now we just want to keep repeating this. So I'm just going to show you again, and all you want to make sure to do as well is keep starting with the same cord. So I'm going to start with the cord on this right side every time to make sure it gets consistent. So I take the right one first from the top, bring it to the left below the ones on the side, and the left one goes over towards the right, again below the ones on the side. Then I take the right one from the bottom, bring it to the left above the other ones, and the left one towards the right, again above the other ones. And then the side ones here, it's the two middle ones we focus on. The top one comes down, stays from the left and stays on the left side here, and the bottom one goes up and is right opposite than the other one we just moved. So again stays on the same side, and then on the right side of the disc, the top one of the two middle ones come down. So we have the pair now on the bottom, and the bottom one goes up again, so we have the pair on the top. And then we just close up the gap on the side by moving the cords one slot closer to each other. So they now sit on either side of the dot there. So you just want to keep repeating this for a little bit, a few go arounds until we have a couple of centimetres of the braid here before we then start adding in the beads. So I now kept going for a bit here, and then you can see the braid is starting to form, it's coming out on the back. So now we need to continue and also then start adding in the beads. So I'm just going to start a new round in the exact same way, and then it's during this round that we need to add the bead in. So I'm just going to get it started. So the exact same technique, the top right one, bring that out to the left side below, and then the left one from the top out to the right side, again below the other ones, and then the bottom right one up to the left, and the bottom left one up to the right. So that's now the top and the bottom ones moved. So we now need to do the middle ones on this side, and this is also where we then want to add in the bead. First off, I'm going to take the top one of the two middle ones, just start with one side, bring that down, and then I'm going to move the bottom one of the two middle ones there. But before I do, this is where I want to add in my first bead. So I add that onto the cord, let it drop all the way down here, and then you can release your cord in the same way. And then you just want to make sure that that bead drops down, basically in between the two cords on the side, above and below it here. It drops down there, and then you bring that up to the top in the same technique as before, and then you make sure that that bead is stuck underneath that cord going out to the side there. And then the same on the other side. The top one of the two middle ones, bring down the bottom one of the two, so one we just want to add the bead to before we move it, and bring it all the way down, and then as you release the cord, make sure the bead drops into the gap here on the side, underneath the cord going out to the side, and then bring that up. And you can see we have the pairs on the top and the bottom back in place. Then we just need to close up the gap here on the side, just like before, and then you'll have those beads sat right there in the middle, one on each side of the braid. And that is really all there is to add in the beads. So you can see that it's the exact same movements, we're just adding the beads during one of the rounds. So I'm just going to do another round now, because then here we have the beads in place. Make sure the bead stays underneath there while you're then moving these cords. This is a new round we're now starting. So kind of the most important thing in this round is to make sure the beads stay in place underneath the cords going out to the side. So just do another full round here, and this one is right after we add the beads in, and now want to do a full round without adding a bead in. Otherwise the same technique though. So the exact same movements, and like I said, without adding a bead into this one. Close up the gaps here. And then we have the cords back in the original position again. and ready to do the next round. And then the next round we want to add in the beads again in the exact same way that I just showed you. So basically we just want to add in the beads in every other round, so skip one where we don't add a bead and continue like that, because then they'll be evenly and nicely spaced on the edges of the braid. So just keep doing this until you have the length that you need. So I now kept going here and also adding in the beads, and it looks a little something like this, your braid coming on the other side. So you have the braid pretty much running down the middle, and then you have your beads along the edges of the piece. And then obviously you just want to make sure you have the right length that you need. So you just kind of measure it along the way, the length of the braid, and then take into account how much length your clasp is going to add as well. But then otherwise what we're just going to do here is do a few more rounds just without adding beads in. So basically just like we did in the beginning here, just so we have a little piece to finish it off with. Once you've done that, you can take it off your disc, tie a knot, and then we have the braid done. So this is then what the braid looks like in my case. You can see it looks pretty much the same. If you look closely on the actual braid, you can tell a bit of a difference in the structure, but they look similar enough, and it's up to you what side you prefer to use. But then here we have the braid ready for the next step. And for that we then need to bring in the other lengths of cord that we got ready as well, so the other colour. That's in my case here, the burgundy ones. So I have both of them ready, two separate ones. And what I've done as well is got the ends ready on them. So because I'm using a synthetic cord, in this case the satin cord, I can singe the ends with a lighter and then just roll it between my fingers to make it a bit like a needle. It makes it much easier to then get through the beads, because obviously there's already some cord going through it. But just be careful doing that, because it's obviously going to be a bit hot. So I'm going to be using the cords like this. And then first of all here we need to attach them. So I'm just doing one at a time. And I'm taking that end that I've got ready, and then I'm getting this through the very first bead on one end. It doesn't matter what end you start on, but get through one bead first of all, just like this, and pull it all the way through so it comes right down towards the other end of this length of cord. Just so we have a little end sticking out, obviously, so we can hold on to that. So that's the one, and then on the other side, the very first bead as well, we need to attach the other one. So just in the exact same way. And what you can always do is kind of maneuver your braid around a little bit to make a bit more space to get the cords through the beads here. And again pull this all the way through so it comes down towards the other end. And you can just hold on to those ends a bit if you want to. So they're now attached. So what we need to do now is start getting into the pattern using these two new cords that we just brought in. And what we're going to be doing is using one side at a time, and it doesn't matter what side you start with, as long as I would recommend you staying consistent throughout. So every time you do a new little section, make sure you start with the same side as you've done the other times. So I'm just going to start with my right one here. And then what we're going to do is take it from that right side of the braid and then go over to the left side, up in the second bead, so the next one up that hasn't got a cord through yet. And then bring the cord straight through that bead, and then pull that all the way through. So what then happens is that we've actually pulled this cord through at a diagonal. So it comes from the first bead on the bottom there, diagonally across to the next bead up on the other side. So that's the first one. And then I'm going to take the cord from the other side, so that's my left one here, still in the first bead, bring that to the right side of the braid and go through the next bead up that hasn't got a cord through it, obviously aside from the one that's in the braid, but of this new colour that we're adding in. So that also crosses over diagonally, just in the opposite direction. So what then happens is that's going to lay across the top of the first one we did and basically form almost a little X right there. And then the reason why I said start with the same side each time is because this first side that I started with is laying underneath, and the second one that I just brought over now is going above that. So it's just to make it look consistent throughout, really. So the same one comes over every time. So now I'm going to move on to the next one. So again, I'm going to start with the same side, so that means I start with the right one because that's the one I started with before. And I bring that from the right side over towards the left and go through the next open bead, you could say, and pull that through all the way So again, the cord crosses over diagonally and sits like that. So that's the first one in that one, and that little X you could say. And then take the one from the left side, bring that over towards the right side of the braid, and then go through the next bead up. Just like that. And pull that all the way through. And also, I just want to mention is when you're pulling this through, and obviously we're getting the cord all the way tight, so it sits on the braid here. You want to make sure to pull it so it's snug, because we don't want these cords that lay on top and form the X's, you could say, to be too loose, because obviously that won't look that nice. But also you don't want to pull them too tight, because that's going to kind of pull the whole braid a little bit out of shape. So just find a nice middle ground, keep an eye on it as you go, and get like a nice even tension on the whole thing throughout. So you get your little X's or corset look there, going all the way up, and you just keep doing this, moving from side to side, all the way to the other end. And then once you've done that, all that's left to do really is finish off the ends. So this is then what it looks like when I've kept going here. You can see you get that really nice kind of corset effect, and you have all the X's going all the way along. And that's the decoration that we added in. We still have our beads on the sides as well. So now all that's left to do is finish off the ends. Now I already have a tutorial where I show how to do that using these ribbon ends here. We're going to give it a nice and neat finish, and you can use whatever findings you want to afterwards to attach to them. And then once you've done that, then you'll have your finished bracelet. So this is then the full bracelet after attaching the findings. And it looks like that. Then obviously you can just use them to close it up and wear it nice and securely. And then it looks a little something like this. So obviously depending on what materials you use, you can get completely different looks and results. It's completely up to you. But this is what mine looks like. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.